Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing this week?
Doing fantastic. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing great. Things are good here, but as we record this episode, there's still a couple of million people without power in Florida, and our thoughts go out to them. And we're going to be looking forward this episode. As we record this, we're coming up on the beginning of fourth quarter. It's a good time to wrap up the year and start planning for next year. So we're going to be talking about setting goals, planning your objectives, how useful it is, and how you can best do it. So, because we've spoken before about SMART goals. And Chip, you want to remind our audience what SMART stands for?
SMART stands for, the S is for specific. The bottom line is you have to have a specific goal. Number two, the M is for measurable. You have to be able to measure your progress as things are going. The A is for attainable, which means that it's something that you can attain while you're going through it. It can't be too high. Obviously, you can reach a bit, but you got to be able to get there. And then the next step is realistic, a real goal. And then the most important thing, if you just have those four things, all you have is a dream. It becomes a goal when you put a T on it, which is time bound.
Right. And as we're talking about starting to get ready for 2018, I don't know where 2017 has gone, but it's gone by pretty quickly. You have to look.
Time flies, right?
It does. You have to look forward to see, what it is you want to accomplish. And SMART goals are a great way to kick that off. And I'm a big fan of the R in SMART goals. Realistic. Because we all have goals. But keeping them realistic is crucial. I am now 48 years old. It doesn't matter how much I work at it. I am never pitching in a World Series at this point. It's just not happening. You have to be realistic about these things. So when you're creating your goals, you have to figure out what it is you actually want to accomplish that can be accomplished. And there's a big difference when you're setting your goals between what you want to accomplish and what you need to accomplish. And you really need to take a good look at that and put what needs to be done first and get those done so that you can build on them to get to what you want to accomplish.
Yes, prioritization is a really, really important thing when it comes to goals. I mean, obviously some goals that you set are easier to attain, but not as important. And I like to tell people it's really important to go by the WIN philosophy. And WIN stands for what's important now.
Absolutely. There are tons of things we want to get done. But a lot of times, accomplishing them relies on getting them done in the right order. And that's something that's important, because if you're striving to get something done and a separate goal has a direct bearing on the foundation of that, if you don't get that foundation built, you're not going to be able to reach the secondary goal.
Yeah, it's very, very important to plan things out. And, a great place to start, as you mentioned, we are going to the fourth quarter of the year, fall's right around the corner. And a great way to figure out your goals is to sit down and kind of evaluate and reflect upon what's happened so far this year in all parts of your life. We're not just talking professional. And it's a good idea to start just writing down all of your dreams and things like that you want to do. As I've said before, I recommend writing these things down on a spreadsheet so you can sort them out. That way you can just write down a whole bunch of ideas without having to worry about the next step, which is putting them in order. The first step is just to write things down. But it's a great time of year to evaluate and reflect things, not only for professional, but for your health, for personal development, finances, relationships, and all that kind of thing. And then set up a different spreadsheet for each one of those topics so you can be working on your whole package as opposed to just one thing at a time. But it's important to start listing things down first. And then, as you're saying, it's really, really important to prioritize, which is also something that you can do in a spreadsheet because you can just put a column in for prioritization.
Right. And, in terms of personal development, we've just had our big, back to school season. All the kids are going back. But that's also a good time for us to take stock of what we're doing and see, well, what new things do we want to learn? Do we want to learn about coding and how to work on the computer better? Do you want to go off, on a tangent on something that has nothing to do with your work, nothing to do, and just learn a completely new topic, maybe a new language, or learn something about science? It's a great time to be able to do that, especially if you've just gotten the kids out of the house after being there all summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, it's a great way to keep your mind fresh instead of concentrating on your profession all the time.
Yeah, and the more you learn about things, the more your life improves as a whole. I mean, I know I've been told time and time again, it's a very strange subject to be a hobby, but I read about quantum physics as a hobby. And when I've been listening to audiobooks, reading about the history of quantum physics, about how all the things fit together, periodically, because my mind is completely off of work and completely off of my day-to-day, I've suddenly had epiphanies about what I'm doing at work because, I'm taking these different principles and it's giving me a different point of view. So instead of looking at my work project and doing the same thing over and over again, I've been able to get a different point of view. And that very often has made me go, oh, wait a minute. I can do it this way.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, too, because we've talked a lot about mindfulness and just letting go when we're working on things. And too often when we get involved in work and projects and so on and so forth, we're so focused on just getting something done that we just lose the ability to be creative. So if you're doing something else and you're totally letting go of what's going on work-wise and so on and so forth, it's, I imagine, pretty easy to come up with some solutions there where it's while you're doing something else, just because you're not really totally focused and have the pressure on yourself.
All right. It relieves the pressure you're putting on yourself to accomplish something. Your subconscious is always working out these things, whether you want to or not consciously. And it always helps to be able to give yourself a different perspective. So, working on your personal development, working on your family development, your friendships, everything builds upon itself. So the better you do on personal development, the better your relationships are. The better your relationships are, the better you are at work. The better you are at work, the better your personal development goes. And it keeps building on itself.
Yep, it's the total package.
So, and as we've said, it all starts with what are the goals that you want to set up? Personally, professionally. And it's so important to make them specific. It's so easy to say, I want to make more money. I want to have more friends. Well, but more is anything greater than you have now. So if you make $1 extra this year if you make one friend, technically you've met the goal, but is that really what you meant? It's I want to make an extra $10,000 this year. I want to make 5 new friends this year. You need to be specific.
Yeah, it all comes down to the planning, the preparation. So if you're going to say that, obviously it's a great goal to want to make more, but you have to really drill down and figure out exactly how you're going to do that. And, we talk a lot about this when we talk about networking and business development and whatever, but it's just identifying the ways that you're going to do that. And we've talked about time management and so on, and the planner that you have together so that you can just organize the little tasks that's going to take to achieve the main goal and monitoring yourself as you're doing that. So once you have the general goal, it's really important to drill down very quickly as to how you're going to accomplish that so that you have the specific goals.
Right. And, talking about drilling down, you also want to make sure you're setting the right goals. And by the right goals, I mean the goals that are actually going to get you where you want to go. And there's a business tool we use in coaching and consulting all the time called the 5 whys. And it's very important and it's very simple to do. It's literally asking why 5 times. So if you say, I want to lose 40 pounds, ask yourself, well, why do you want to lose that 40 pounds? Well, I want to be more healthy. Okay, why do you want to be more healthy? Well, I get out of breath easily. I'm not as active as I should be. Okay, so why do you get out of breath? Well, I'm out of shape. Well, okay. So now you've just narrowed that down. It's not simply that you want to lose 40 pounds. You want to get back in shape, which requires exercise, which requires activity. If your only goal is, I want to lose 40 pounds just for the sake of losing 40 pounds, then you look at diets. If you decide your goal is actually, well, you want to be more healthy, you want to be more active, you need to look at a different program. You need to look at diet and exercise. Possibly you need to go to a doctor, have them evaluate cholesterol, blood pressure, all of that. So by going down with the 5 whys and drilling down to what it is you're really trying to accomplish, you narrow down your goal, and it makes it easier to figure out how to accomplish it, because now you know, okay, this is what I want. Say, I want to make more money. Well, why do you want to make more money? Well, I want to be able to send my kid to college. Okay. If your actual goal is to send your kid to college, making more money is a great way to do it, but there are also other things to look into. You can look into scholarships. You can look into student loans, etc. However, if you want to make more money to go on vacation, then that's a different goal, and you would accomplish it differently.
Yeah, and we've talked about the word why so often, but the word why, just answering why, absolutely makes you define things a whole lot more so that you can figure out the different steps that you need to write down to get those goals accomplished. So it's the 5 whys is, I think it's a fantastic exercise.
Yeah, I found it really useful. And again, because the more you drill down, the more you know about your goal, the easier it is to figure out how to accomplish it. I mean, if you want to put aside money, if you want to do it for a vacation, if you want to do it for education, or you want to do it for retirement, there are different tools for each of those that you can use. So you have to figure out, what that money is going to go for so that you know all of the tools that are at your disposal.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word too. I mean, we talked about the book Start With Why. And the next logical step, once you have the why, all of a sudden those hows start to come to mind very, very easily. Instead of, I just want to make more money, how am I going to do that? If you have the whys there first, the hows are the logical next step. And this works not only personally, but in business environments, when you're collaborating with fellow employees to get projects done and so on and so forth. Start with the why, and then the hows are there. It's the mastermind principle.
Exactly. The hows become so much easier when you figure out the whys. And a lot of it does go back to setting smart goals. We mentioned earlier the T is for timing. That timing is crucial. If you're saying you want to make an additional $10,000, well, in what time frame? If you want to make that additional $10,000 in 3 months, there are certain things you have to do. You'll have to work harder, get more customers, do more business, possibly get a second job, something like that. However, if that time frame is 5 years, then you have all sorts of investment opportunities that you can look into. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds that over 5 years will appreciate and help you get to that point. So being as specific as possible, figuring out exactly what it is you want to accomplish and why you want to accomplish it and how long you have to accomplish it, all affect how you're going to achieve the goal.
One of the great things to have while you're doing this too is once you have your goal set down, instead of just keeping it to yourself, share it with somebody. Having an accountability partner or partner to help you out with what you're looking to do so that you can talk to each other about what's going on. It's so important. So if somebody knows what you're doing and they know what your time deadlines are and so on and so forth, obviously that's going to help you get things done on time rather than just letting things float. And it's a lot more fun when you're working with somebody else because you get to celebrate each other's accomplishments.
Yes, an accountability partner is a great way to do it. It's been shown in studies that it's easier to commit to a goal when you write it down than it is when you just think about it. It's easier to commit to a goal when you tell somebody about it than if you just write it down. So the more you talk about it, if people know about it, if you've written it down, it sort of gives you that concrete, all right, I can't back out of this. I have to get this done. And accountability partners are fantastic because you're helping each other reach your goals. And the same way that, working on personal development and learning something new helps free your mind to improve your work, helping somebody else with their goals gives you a different perspective on how to get to yours. And by the same token, they may have some great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of. So having an accountability partner is absolutely fantastic. It's a bonus, not just in holding you accountable and keeping you on track, but in giving you more information and giving you new ideas that you wouldn't have come up with on your own.
Yeah, and absolutely. If you're dealing with somebody who you know and trust, and you're doing that as a team, unconditionally giving to each other, it's so important to do that. I know I've talked from time to time about the slight edge system for developing goals. This was a book written years ago by Jeff Olson. I don't even know if it's still in print, but one of the things we did talk about in that is just drilling your main goals down into simple day-to-day activities that you can do to just accomplish things. So we've used the example in the past. If I gave you a choice today of giving you a penny and doubling it every day for a month or giving you $1 million, what would you rather have? And a lot of people would jump at the million right away because the penny just becomes 2 tomorrow and 4 and 8 and so on and so forth. But from day 30 to 31, it goes from $5 to $10 million.
Right.
Doing the same simple action every day of doubling that. So let's talk about that lose 40 pounds thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Why do you want to do it? Okay, I'm out of shape and so on and so forth. So if you come up with a goal that, okay, I'm going to take a walk every day for 15 minutes rather than come home and sit down and watch television. Are you going to lose 40 pounds this week? No. Are you going to lose 40 pounds in the month? No. But you will be doing something every single day to start working towards that. And you can logically expect to be making progress towards that because you're doing a daily activity rather than waiting 3 months and saying, oh my God, I haven't done anything about losing my 40 pounds this year. So it's simple daily disciplines, a simple price to pay, that kind of thing. It's really, really important to chunk these down into little tasks that are realistic, as we've talked about before, that you can do, attainable.
Right. In the Biznetic system that we use for coaching and consulting, we refer to these as daily sprint goals. And they're just small chunks of your major goal. But goals are so much easier to do when you break them down. You know, losing 40 pounds may seem impossible. Losing 2 pounds, however, seems very possible. Okay, so what can I do today? And what can I do tomorrow and the next day? And you keep building on it. And the same thing goes in business goals, personal development. It doesn't matter what type of goal you have. Breaking it down makes it easier. If you have a project that you have to build a website, it is so much easier to break it down and go, okay, today I have to figure out what pages are going to go on that website. Tomorrow I have to write content for one of those pages. Next day I have to write content for another one of those pages. I have to choose graphics for those pages. And little by little, step by step, the entire project takes shape.
Yeah, when you're looking in, if you're in the sales field and so on and so forth, there are normally parameters where if you do these particular actions, combination of maybe cold calls and follow-ups and networking meetings and so on and so forth, you can logically expect to accomplish X amount of results instead of saying, oh, I got to sell $1,000 a week. If you have activity goals and declare a victory on those daily or weekly and so on, you can logically expect that you're going to achieve what you're looking to do without just looking at the money side of things. So it's setting up these daily activity goals or weekly activity goals and making sure you accomplish those is a great way to achieve things. And there are specifics for a lot of industries out there where you're taught that as soon as you're hired by somebody as far as exactly what you got to do to achieve things.
Right. There's an old story about Michael Jordan that he wanted to be able to score 80 points a game. And now that's a lot for anybody, even Jordan. But he started breaking it down. Well, if I can do 10 baskets a quarter, that'll get me to the 80 points. Well, it's easier to focus on getting 10 baskets than it is 80 points. And that's what he did. And sure enough, he was able to meet and exceed his goal. Breaking it down makes it simple. And you want to keep things simple. The easier it is for you to accomplish, the more likely it is you'll get it done. So by breaking down complicated goals into simple steps, you'll take it step by step, one at a time, and eventually you'll get to your goal. Now, of course, we've talked about setting the goals. We've talked about the why of your goals and the how. But as we mentioned in SMART, that T is time bound. So when is also important. And we've talked a little bit about this. But when you get down to it, there's even more to the goal than that. It's not just what, how, why, and when. It's who. Is this something that you have to do all of? Or can you delegate parts of it to make it easier to accomplish? If you're in a business, if you're working with a team, you can spread the work out over the team. if you're working on personal development, there's always things that happen that you can delegate. Let's say you've decided you want to read a book a week. Well, you need to find the time to do that. Now, you can't take too much time off of work. You have to get your work done. However, can you delegate to one of your kids to do the dishes once a week or twice a week? That gives you a little more time to do this.
Yeah, it's all in the time management.
Right. It's important to know what in your daily life and what in your goals you absolutely have to do and what you can delegate and have others do.
Yeah, and the other thing with that too, I mean, you brought up kids and so on. It's really, really important not only to just have your own personal goals, but the power of planning as a family or planning as, business cohorts and so on and so forth, planning goals together so that you're all working together on this. It makes it a whole lot easier and it makes it a whole lot more fun accomplishing things. And people are going to be a lot more willing to pitch in rather than saying, hey, son, I want to read 3 books this week, so you're going to start doing dishes, that type of thing.
Right.
You know how that works.
Absolutely. And working your goals in conjunction with other people is very powerful. There's something called the network effect. And what they found was you would think, okay, if 2 people can get twice as much done as one, that 3 people could get 3 times as much done as one. 4 people, 4 times. Except it doesn't actually work that way. They found that the network effect, it's not multiplicative, and I'm not sure I said that word right, but it actually works exponentially. So you're not getting X done with 1 person, 2X done with 2 people, and 3X done with 3. You're getting X done with 1 person, X to the second power done with 2, which is the same as 2X, and X to the third done with 3, and that's a lot more than 3X. And it keeps going. If you have 4 or 5, it's X to the 4th, X to the 5th. So by working with a team on goals, you can accomplish an infinite amount.
Absolutely. I mean, it really goes back to Napoleon Hill's mastermind principle.
Yes.
When more minds get together, you have a third very, very, very powerful mind. And I'm sure everybody has experienced that, where you get together with a couple of people with a problem and you start talking it through, and bang, it's done better than you could have ever have expected it to be done, just because you work with other people towards the same common goal.
Right. Now, I think it's important to mention, when you are working with other people, it is important that all of the team members be on the same page, rowing in the same direction, working towards the same goals. Once you start getting into a committee structure where everybody has their own agenda and you're trying to compromise and fit everybody's needs into it, then nothing gets done.
That's when it's time to pull out the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yes. All right, we're coming to the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
SMART goals. Get them down on paper, get them organized, and just follow the system and just constantly be reevaluating things, because life is ongoing and so should goal setting be.
Yeah, that's something we actually didn't get into all that much, but goals should be an ongoing process. And your goals should adapt as your life changes. And I think that's my big takeaway, is that a goal isn't something that you put down on paper and commit to doing as it is right there. You commit to a goal, but that goal adapts and changes over time to meet your new needs and to meet your new conditions. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at blogtalkradio.com/Success Showcase. You can also find us on the iTunes Store and the Apple Podcasts app. Remember, Make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.